Hey my friends, it's Kate Silver and I've got some Adobe Photoshop updates for 2023 and 2022 for you. Adobe introduced a few cool new features to Photoshop this year, so let me break them down for you. Okay, my friends, so let's look at Adobe Photoshop updates for 2023 up until 2021. So before we move on to 2023, I'm going to briefly cover updates introduced in 2021 because a bunch of new updates were introduced in that year, and since then, it's just kept on improving. And then after that, we're going to jump to 2023 and to see how these updates have changed. Okay, so we've all heard all the trends with AI, artificial intelligence. Some are good, some are scary, but it's here. And some of you have tried AI-generated chat, image generators, and more. What is really cool, though, is Adobe Photoshop has used AI to power some of its updates. And these are pretty exciting, so let's have a look at them. So one of the best updates that Photoshop came up with is neural filters, which is powered by AI. And they're basically a bunch of fun filters like skin smoothing, altering facial expressions, colorizing your old black and white photos, and more. And here you can see a good little preview. How it can alter facial expressions, the angle of the face, direction, flipping it, and also skin smoothing. So we're going to have a really quick look at it. So I've created a folder called Bonus Photoshop Updates 2023, and there's also a zip file for this. So go ahead and download this, double click, and I've created just a couple folders. Let's start with skin smoothing. And you can choose one of the images. So you can either right click and open with Adobe Photoshop or File, Open as Smart Object. And then in order to go to Neural Filters, we go to Filter, Neural Filters. And here you can see a bunch of existing neural filters. And you might have to download some of them. They're like plugins. I just want to say that a lot of these are still in beta and under development. I just think they're going to get better and better and better as the years go by. Okay, so also full disclosure, I really like wrinkles and I like aging, okay? But anyway, let's move on. So what you can do is blur the face and you can see it starting to smooth or reduce, which is cool, and then smoothing as well. But don't do it too much because obviously it will look a bit weird. So yeah, that's one of them. Skin smoothing. You also have smart portrait, so you can download that. And if you need to zoom in, that's Command or Control plus. You can see a bit better. So let's go back to skin smoothing, blur, smooth. Okay, and smart portrait. So this is really creepy. You can make him smile. Does take a little while to process. And there is the smile. So it's a bit of further development from Liquify, which I teach in my Adobe Photoshop Beginners course, but AI powered. You can make the person look younger or older, facial age. And wow, that's creepy. That's amazing. We can make a person look younger. It's also very scary, I personally think. So yeah, this is pretty cool, and there's a whole bunch of them that in 2023 have been added as well, a bunch of new neural filters. So So you can go ahead and close this, and we're going to move on to the next update. Press cancel, and voila. And that was pretty much it for the first update from 2021. That was neural filters. Let's move on to the next cool update, and that is sky replacement. So you can now replace the sky in any photo. You can add clouds, sunset, and it's especially great if the shooting conditions are less than ideal. So for instance, rainy London. So let's have a tiny little look about how to do that. So again, we go back to that little folder that I created and go to sky replacement, and you can choose any picture really. Let's try this one and open with Adobe Photoshop. And by the way, like I've mentioned in my previous course, you can right click and convert it into a smart object if you wanted to, just to keep this safe, this image safe. If you don't know what that means, then have a look at my Photoshop beginners course. Okay, so to replace the sky, you can go to Edit, Sky Replacement. As easy as that. And let's see. Wow. Okay, so I'm completely flabbergasted and amazed by this. I find this incredible. What just happened? Wow. So you can change it. Oh, that's a bit much. Make it a bit more gloomy. Change the edge, the temperature, more yellow. You can also change the actual image. Let's try with clouds. Oh my God. Okay, let's try another image. This is just too amazing. Okay. Ooh, pinky skies. Yeah, so I'm completely amazed by this. I don't know if you are, but I am. And I'm definitely going to be using this one. And just so you know, since 2021, this has improved and improved, and Photoshop keeps on improving, which is awesome. Don't save. And that was pretty much it for the second update from 21, sky replacement. Okay, let's move on to another super cool and useful update, and it's called the Discover panel. And as you can see here in a quick demo, you can search for the Discover panel, let's say remove background, and you can choose from quick actions where Photoshop will do it for you, or tutorials. So that is super cool. So let's go back to Photoshop and let's have a little look at how it works. Have any image open, and the Discover panel will be here. The beautiful magnifying glass. And you can quickly search something. So skip tour, remove background. There we go. Click. And whoa, that's scary. It's just amazing how quick it is. Personally, I still like to remove my own backgrounds like I taught you in the course, in the Photoshop course, because sometimes it doesn't do the best job. And as you can see, it's exactly how I taught you in the course. It's with a layer mask. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So check it out. So that was it for the third update in 2021, the Discover panel. And you can discover and search a whole bunch of things in Photoshop as long as you click on this button. So pretty cool. Okay, so the next and fourth Photoshop 2021 update was Live Shapes, which to me basically means that it's more like Adobe Illustrator. You have way more options and freedom in the properties panel to modify shapes, really. As you can see, there's the little widgets here to round corners. which I use all the time in Illustrator, and now it's available in Photoshop. So it really made my life easier, basically. And there's also a triangle tool, which is new. And you can find it here in the shape tool. If you go to shapes, you can now see the triangle tool, and that's new. Click and drag. And there's our little famous widget, click and drag. Voila, pretty much it. So that was it for live shapes. And let's move on to the final 2021 Photoshop update, and that is Reset Smart Object, which is super practical. Okay, so let's say I've done a bunch of stuff with this image. So as long as it's a smart object, if I right click and convert it to smart object, and then I do a bunch of changes to this, so I resize it, I distort it, it looks terrible, I rotate it, looks even worse. Now Photoshop gives me this, which is resetting smart object to its original state, which is super cool and useful, especially if you made a lot of mistakes. So that was it for Adobe Photoshop 2021 updates. So like promised, we're going to move on to 2023. So basically, maybe you've noticed that I'm skipping 2022, and that's because 2022 was basically the neural filters that you've seen, just improved, it's just been worked on, so there weren't major updates. Okay, so let's look at Adobe Photoshop 2023 changes. I would say the first major one is improvement of the object selection tool, which is really cool. So it just makes it even faster and better and easier to select an object or subject in this case. Example, I can go to the object selection tool, which is here, shortcut W. Make sure I have my layer selected. Maybe I'll zoom in. And as I zoom in, you'll see how incredible this is. It literally highlights the objects individually, which is incredible, I find. And let's say I just want to keep the lady, I can click. And now she's selected, and I can just create a mask, click, and bye-bye everyone else. We've chopped his leg off, but yeah. So yeah, that was update number 1 in 2023, selection improvements. Especially the object selection tool is way better at detecting and making selections. Super awesome. The next one is kind of linked to the previous one. It's one-click delete and fill. So in my previous course and in one of my YouTube videos, I teach you how to use the content-aware fill, which basically means that I select something in my image and I can hide it, replace it, fill it automatically with something in the background so it looks seamless. There we go, that's the word. And you can use one of these shortcuts. So if you're using a Mac, Shift-Delete. If you're using Windows, Shift-Backspace. So let's see how it works. I'm using a Mac, so I'm pressing Shift-Delete. But if you're using a PC, Shift-Backspace. Now it didn't work, and that's potentially because it's a smart object. So I'm just going to rasterize this so that it's no longer a smart object. Let's try now. Shift, Backspace, or Delete. And this panel will come up, and let's press OK. And I mean, didn't do the best job. I guess sometimes it works better than other times. Let's try again. Gonna go back to the object selection tool. Let's try it with this. Okay, and now Shift backspace or Shift delete. Ah, okay, this is a bit better. I guess it depends on what you select, and it's not perfect, but in this case, it did a good job. That's update from 2023. Number 2, the quick content-aware fill, which can be very useful. Okay, one of the other really cool neural filters that have been added in 2023, photo restoration neural filter. And that basically means that you can restore old photos with new restoration neural filters. It's powered by AI, which is awesome. And it basically restores your old and damaged family photos, which is amazing, as you can see here. So if you have any old photos to restore, check it out, try it out. So it's important to mention that it's currently still under the beta section. So you still, again, like before, you have to download and enable the filter. So it would be in filters, neural filters, and you'd have to download here photo restoration and download, like with all the other filters. And then you click on photo restoration and make sure to turn it on, just like a British plug, a British switch. Okay, now go ahead and feel free to use your own family photos. Just a side note that when you want to leave the neural filters, just make sure you click on cancel here. And then you can go ahead and open an image. So that was it for Photoshop update number 3, photo restoration neural filter. Okay, cool. Now the next few updates that we're going to look at are actually Photoshop beta updates. And that just means that they're completely under construction, they're in beta, they're not yet completely done. And it also means that we are going to have to install a Photoshop beta app, a separate beta app on Creative Cloud. Now you don't have to do this, so don't worry if you don't feel like it. Feel free to sit back, relax, and listen if you prefer, or you can do it with me and learn how to use it. That is totally up to you. I'm going to go to the Creative Cloud app and click on Beta Apps. And then you'll see Photoshop Beta. And you can click on Install and it will do its thing. And the logo will be white and blue, and you can go ahead and click on that. So all these updates that will be in this beta app will eventually be integrated into Photoshop, right? So you don't have to know all these. These are just extra tools that I'm showing you for fun and because this is like looking into the future of Photoshop. Okay, so the first Photoshop beta update for 2023 is Live Gaussian Blur. Live Gaussian Blur is a filter that's based on an existing Gaussian Blur filter inside Photoshop. So the difference between the previous one and the current one is that you can actually change things and manipulate it live. You don't have to select something in advance. You can actually adjust the blur and zoom in and change it as you go, which makes everything a bit faster and easier to use. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to go to Photoshop Beta. I'm going to go to File, Open. I'm going to choose any image. Go to Open. And let's have a little look. I'm going to go to Filter, Blur. And there it is. Live Gaussian Blur. Click. And this panel is going to come up, which, as you can see, is already blurring stuff. Now, what I love about this is there's a little brush here, plus to add blur and minus to remove. And you can actually remove the blur from the subject or object. which is awesome. And then if you would like to make your brush bigger, like I showed you in the Photoshop course that I teach, you can adjust the brush size with the brackets. So the right square bracket to make it bigger and the left one to make it smaller. Then you can remove it, which is pretty cool. So Photoshop did not have that before. The Gaussian blur did not let you do that. So I think this is pretty cool, and it's just going to keep on improving. So I can adjust the blur, add more blur, add less blur. So yeah, that is one step less to do. And press OK when you're done. So yeah, that was it for Live Gaussian Blur. The first Photoshop Beta 2023 update, Live Gaussian Blur. Now let's move on to the next one, the second Beta Photoshop update of 2023, and that's Live Gradients. And again, this you can also only add in the Photoshop Beta app for now. And it's cool because you can add a gradient directly and add gradients anywhere and change it, and it's just way faster to use. I'll show you. I'm gonna go back to the Photoshop Beta app and either choose another image, or you can just undo Command or Control Z and revert back to before. And then go ahead and go to the gradient tool and then click and drag, and that's it. That's how amazing this is. All you had to do is click and drag and it automatically adds a blur to the image, which is awesome. Like, how cool is that? You can also change the color. Just click on the color here and the color will change. So yeah, Photoshop didn't make it that simple before. You had to do a whole maneuver, a whole process to add a gradient. So I am super happy with that. Okay, so that was it for Photoshop Beta Update number 2, Live Gradients. Now the final one is the one I was most excited about. It's Backdrop Neural Filters. And it's powered by AI, so it basically means you're able to type a prompt or a description and it will create a unique image according to what you wrote, just like the AI software DALL-E, which is super cool. And then you're able to use that unique image that you just created as a backdrop image, which is such a cool concept. Now, I was super excited about this, but sadly, I've tried it. And for the moment, for right now, it didn't work on mine. So I'm still going to try it again with you. But let's have a look. So to access this, we can go to Filter, Neural Filters, and have a look at Backdrop. And again, turn the switch on. Now, as I try to do that, sadly, for me, it doesn't work. For some reason, it might do with something in my computer, but it doesn't work. But basically, you can write down a description or a prompt, and it would create a unique image according to that description. And that image will be used as a backdrop for this existing image, which is super cool. Now, the good news is that there is another really cool filter that does seem to work for now. So we get to practice this now, and it's called the Landscape Mixer. So make sure you turn it on just like a British plug or switch. This is another neural filter powered by AI. You're basically able to change the background of an image using any of these existing images, and it will change the background, the tone accordingly. Now, at first, I clicked and I got frustrated because it didn't work for me. But then I realized that actually I have to untick Harmonize Subject. And once I untick harmonize subject and I click on an image, it does work and it does change the tone accordingly, which is kind of cool. So go ahead and try this. Ooh, this is super cool. It's all trees and grass and greenery, whatever it's called. So yeah, that's really cool. And now we've got snow. So I'm happy with this. And I think it's just going to get better and better. Now just make sure you do not untick preserve subject, because if you do, it will kind of override the subject. And it will look a bit like a horror story, like a horror movie. Okay, so that was it for now. Don't forget to press OK or cancel to exit the neural filters. I would love to see you use all these exciting new neural filters and updates that I just showed you and use it in your own images and your own designs. So please post it in the project section below. I would love to have a look at them. Okay, my friends, that was pretty much it for Adobe Photoshop updates for 2023 and 2022. I would love to hear which one is your personal favorite update, so please write it down in the comments section below. Adobe's constantly trying to improve their softwares to make their loyal users like me very happy. So follow me to stay notified on more Adobe software updates. And voila, see you soon!